All right, guys, let's kick this off. So the first cell tip and trick, again, these will be the easier ones. And just as a side note, before I get into them, I'm going to provide this workbook as a download. I don't know how useful it'll be to you or not, but if you want to download it in advance, then you can kind of follow along in the videos and see it being done live. So each tab down here is going to be one of the video lectures, and they'll be in order as well. So first thing we're talking about is conditional formatting. So where conditional formatting comes in handy is, and we're going to have to populate in some data, and we'll just make up some data. It's a handy way to basically quickly visually apply formatting rules to different cells. So think of a situation where you have a bunch of numbers, and maybe some numbers are good and some are bad. So say you had a list of students, and anything over 75% is a pass, and anything under 75% is a fail. So let's make that list. Actually, this will just be a simple example. So we have Bob, Sally, James, Paul, Mike, Jeremy. Let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's get 10 people on here. We already have a Sally, Mike. How about Jeff? Megan. We have a Chris. 6, 7, 9, and we already have a Paul. How about Tracy? Okay. So, maybe it's, the first test of the quarter, first test. And here's the results. So let's just randomly, and we're going to make these percentages. So there's some things, like we're learning conditional formatting here. I have to do a bit of formatting on it, though, just to make it look nice. So I'm not necessarily going to stop and explain every formatting or every little thing that I do. So if you're not familiar with it, either just send me a message and ask what did you do in that formatting video, or look it up. You can Google it, or hopefully you know. But anyways, so what I'll just tell you, at least for this one, I want these to be percentages. It's a score on a test, so I'm going to highlight all these cells and hit their percentage sign. So again, we're going through that a little bit fast. I'm assuming you know that already. So let's say Bob got 80, she got 60, 55, 92. 84, 36, didn't do very well. Let's do some like 70s. They got 72, 81, and let's get another 94. It's a tough teacher. So actually, instead of saying anything over, say 75 is a pass, let's figure out what the average is, and then we'll maybe bump it up. So let's see what the average is. And again, we're actually going to learn the conditional formatting in a second. So we're going to say the average. So our formula for average is average, and then we're going to average these cells. So our average was 73%. Okay, so we know that of roughly 73%. So let's say anyone that got over 70, that we'll pass them. So certainly we could look through this, but say this list was 100 lines long or 200 lines long. Well, we just want to visually see something. We want to see roughly how many people were over and how many were under. So the way we do that is we highlight these cells, and we set anything over 70. So we go to conditional formatting. It's right on your home tab. So right here, conditional formatting under the home tab, drop it down, highlight cell. So there's several different types of conditional formatting. And maybe I'll show you color scales after we're done with what we actually want to rule. But so highlight cells rules. So basically we're gonna tell Excel, hey, highlight these cells differently based on what is actually in it. So anything that is greater than, and we said 70, and then we can say, so format cells that are greater than 70 with, and we want like a green. Actually, we can do custom format. Let's do that. We want a fill, and we just want a green. We don't want too obnoxious, just something like that. Perfect. Okay. And it did not work. Let's see what happened there. I suspect what. Manage rules. Cell value is greater than 70, because really, it's not technically 70. It's 0.70 is what the issue is there. So 0.70. This should work. There we go. Because it's 80% is really 0.8. So we want anything over 0.7. Perfect. So now we visually can see this. We can also likewise re-highlight it, redo this, highlight cells, anything less than. Now 70 would be tough because what if the number is exactly 70? Then 70 falls, we said greater than 70. If this was less than 70, it's not going to quite apply. So let's just do 71. So if it's less than 71, or actually 0.71, remember? 0.71, highlight, red fill with dark. Let's just leave that. And perfect. That did exactly that. So now we visually see, okay, out of our 10 students, 3 were below and 7 were above. That seems like a pretty fair pass rate, if you ask me. I mean, this person was way below, and actually these 2 were as well. So, it's not like we should be adjusting what our pass rate was. So I think that's just a quick way to do this. Another way, I mentioned heat maps. So let's do that. Let's clear our rules. Okay. So one of the options on here was color scale. I call it a heat map. And I tend to go with just the standard red, it's kind of like your thermometer look. So basically, this takes into consideration all the numbers that are highlighted and then sort of grades them based on color and the extremity of it. So obviously our 36% gets a dark red, but our 94 and our 92 get, a pretty solid green. Everything in the 70s and the 80s, yellow, it's fair to moderate. Orange means, slightly worse, etc. 84 is, in between our kind of bunch that we had that are in our 70s and low 80s, a little bit higher, so it's a little bit darker green, but green-yellow. So anyways, that's a heat map. So without specifically setting a rule, or I call it the heat map, I almost forget what they call it, color scale. So your color scale will automatically adjust based on the values that are in there and the relative differences in them. So that's definitely a useful tool as well, just for spotting differences. It helps you do this and spot like, okay, this one person is trouble. Again, our list is 10 numbers. Imagine this was a list of 100 students. It's not so easy to just eyeball them and say, oh, these 2 are good or bad. It's easier just to do something like this and really call it out. So that's conditional formatting. That's how it's done. So, our example was a student list. I've seen it a lot on financial reports. So say you have a lot of data, like myself, I keep track of a lot of data by product, and then I have an average, say, number of sales per month. So what I'll do is put conditional formatting on it and say, okay, highlight the cells that are below average in, red, above average in green. And then I kind of get a visual sense of how many months are above average, below average. Now you would expect sort of 50-50, right? The average is in the middle. But maybe what you find out is that, there's the good months are really, really good, and then there's just a lot of bad months, or those really good months are what's dragging up the average. So you can find out information like that by using a lot of this conditional formatting. So there you go, guys. I'm going to leave it at that. Feel free to explore this menu as well. There's different rules. Highlight the top 10%, above average, etc. There's different color scales if you like different color patterns. Icons, you can have, like numbers that are increasing over a series, put a little up arrow. Lots of different ways. But that's conditional formatting in a nutshell.